Hello, everybody. Welcome to On the Homefront. I'm John Murphy. Very happy to be sharing some time with you once again. Our program is going to end a little early once again this week to allow the Red Sox to win yet another game, we hope. So we're going to end at about 5:45 today. Our program will be in two segments. We're going to close with the Windham Theater Guild, a really great organization right here in town, a wonderful way that we have local theater. They have a new show opening this week, Dial M for Murder. So we're going to have the director and cast members on to preview that show coming up just a few days away. And to open today, we're going to have another update from Chapter 42 of the Connecticut Veterans for Peace. I'm very happy to share the studios once again with Bill Potvin and Greg Laxer, who are members. So welcome back to the studio, gents.
Thank you, John.
Hello.
Good to have you in the house. So I think the guys want to open with the special event that recently happened. Somebody visited our area at a special gathering, and that's a good story. To add some positive news to what's happening today, there's so many negative things going on. There is positive things as well, and this is a nice story to share. So thanks for sharing it. We'll talk about Bryce for a few minutes.
Yes.
Please.
I want Bill to carry the ball on this.
Okay, well, first I want to give Jim, our commander,
Okay, Jim Brazil.
Jim Brazil from
Thumbs up.
Newington, a lot of credit for arranging to get Bryce Lockwood, who was a real hero on a horrible piece of our history where a ship, a spy ship in the Mediterranean was attacked by Israel back in the, is it the 5-day war it was called?
6-day.
6-day war. And Jim made all the arrangements and actually made a fantastic poster because the event was adding the mobile war, the Vietnam Memorial Wall, the mobile one,
Yeah, the one that
appeared
tours.
there,
Right.
and they added the people who were killed in Iraq, the veterans who were killed in Iraq and Afghanistan,
Yep.
and Jim sneaked in the USS Liberty because over 30 sailors were killed and 150 wounded, and the entire event was swept under the carpet. It's hard to believe the injustice of that.
34 instant fatalities and 171 or 174 were wounded. These are American sailors and American Marines.
This is in the 70s, right? We're talking the 70s.
1967.
Okay,
67.
June of 67.
Right.
And suddenly I'm taking over here, but
That's okay. It was a spy ship, recognized spy ship with the flags on it, and it was an old World War II freighter that had been designed
Refitted.
to carry a lot of the latest computer stuff. So it was a top of the line thing for its time, and it used to spend time on the African coast, but it came into the Mediterranean during the skirmishes with Israel and the Arab states.
Right.
Where they had actually bombed and kind of neutralized the airports and the things. They basically neutralized one country after the other, and they had free reign, and they did a job on the Arab states at that time. So the U.S. as a spy ship was well marked. It had no big cannons on it.
it wasn't marked as a spy ship.
No, it had U.S. flags on
Yeah,
it.
It was a
U.S.
vessel.
flag.
Right, that's right.
And then they got attacked for, I think it was 8 or 9 minutes, Bryce said. Unmarked aircraft.
No, Bryce said it was closer to 2 hours that they were under attack.
Okay.
Somebody wrote a whitewash book full of lies to try to cover up what Israel had done and claimed it was only an 8-minute attack. We're talking about bombing runs on this ship, machine gun strafing, rockets fired at it, and then they had
And napalm.
napalm that destroyed all the rubber lifeboats on the Liberty. And finally, Israeli torpedo patrol boats
3 of them.
dropped 3 torpedoes that struck the ship, and it's a wonder anybody got out of there alive.
It seemed like the goal was to sink the ship. It did not go down, but a lot of damage was caused. And this guy, Bryce Lockwood, who should have got the Medal of Honor for what he did. He saved 2 or 3 sailors' lives, swimming around, holding on to them in the dark.
Underwater, because they're below decks.
Yes.
So,
And nobody was ever blamed for it. It totally got swept under the rug. Can you imagine being the parent of one of those sailors saying, what's going on?
well, this is probably a silly question to ask, but that's part of my job is to ask the occasional question. Why would this have happened then? What would be the rationale if somebody explained why would the attack even occur? I mean, apart from putting it under the rug, but what was the thought?
I heard there was a major act that Israel had done where they had a couple of thousand Arab fighters, and they shot them all. Okay, that supposedly is one of the incidents that was involved, a very ugly thing, and they thought maybe the U.S. was going to side with the Arab states. That had to be one of the main reasons.
So the history really is still unrevealed. It's just been buried.
No accountability.
Because this is a ship that's intercepting radio communications on both sides of the war.
That's right.
So if Israelis said something over the airspace that would, incriminate them further,
or compromise whatever they're doing, right?
They don't want the word to get out.
Right.
Okay.
So,
well, I'm amazed the way you described the attack that the ship didn't sink. Just think about the construction to handle that kind of a physical assault. So what was the response to Bryce's visit? What's happening with this thought in contemporary dialogue now? This is coming out more.
The best part about it, Bryce is now in his 80s. I think he might be 83 or 84.
He's 85.
85, okay. And he has been advocating for the injustice ever since it happened. That's a lifetime.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Very little satisfaction. There's an organization that does it, but he's on his own a lot of times. And luckily, Jim made the connections to get him to come in, and he was treated very well by all of us.
Okay.
He had a 3-day stay in a hotel. We picked up the bill. Jim picked him up at Bradley Field and kind of was his chauffeur.
Right.
He didn't have to rent a car, and we had a couple of meals together. He spoke in Wethersfield at the major event, and then on Friday he spoke at a Berlin mosque, and I was there as well. Pretty much a repeat of what he had said before. He's probably quite well versed at doing it. He's probably done it 50 times or more.
Yeah. But as the story emerges, we'll try to follow it as the year goes ahead, because the more this comes out, there's other things that are coming out about the military as well. But I want to mention, in case you've joined us on the radio, we're talking with Greg Laxer and Bill Potvin from Chapter 42 of Connecticut Veterans for Peace. You guys have a Facebook page where people can follow the activities?
No, not Facebook.
Yeah, he does have one, I think.
That's his personal.
Oh, okay.
That's not for public knowledge.
All righty.
But
what's the best one?
You can reach our chapter coordinator, Jim Brazile, Brasile.
Correct.
At this email, VFP. Connecticut, all spelled out, 42, the digits 4 and 2. That's
for the
our chapter number, at gmail.com.
Okay. So we have some more time left for the segment this month. We talked about maybe discussing some more domestic issues in terms of peace and violence at home, how people are losing sense of fair play and balance, and it seems like violence is becoming a more frequent answer for some people than several years ago. Charlie Kirk, somebody who believed very strongly in free speech, whatever the controversy was over his remarks people had, he was a strong advocate for free speech all the way, and he was shot last week.
As long as he's the one exercising it.
Well, that's another conversation.
Well, look what our beloved president is doing now. He's threatening investigations and probably prosecution of anyone who calls his bluff publicly, like the Democratic Party, for instance. How's that for free speech? He's already forced Ivy League college presidents to abandon their post by withholding federal funds for research, etc.
That's been going on.
Let's not praise the atmosphere of free speech too much in this country now. Listen, we, the three of us, are all of a certain age group.
That's true.
I think you'll agree this is not the country we were born in and raised in.
I agree.
Things are fundamentally different.
Yeah. And, part of the challenge is we have media as a way to talk our way out of the mess, but the media is part of how we got into the mess because conversations are so broken, the dialogue is hard to maintain, and usually people stay in their silos and they keep reinforcing their own assumptions rather than looking out for the other point of view to say, well, maybe there's something there. And that leads to people getting shot when you totally give up on the idea of dialogue, right? So I guess my thought for you guys, we talked about it before, is how do people get out of this quagmire? The president has a very strong agenda. Even before he was president, he hated criticism. He could not handle criticism well emotionally.
Yeah, but
that's his own personality thing.
Using the office of the president of the United States to single out and punish people who've criticized you, that's going way too far.
Sure.
That's
Okay.
different from holding a press conference when you're a candidate and saying you're tired of being criticized by so-and-so.
True. That is different when you're in office. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I feel that event in Wethersfield was very critical because of the suppression. To get one of the people on that ship out to speak about it, to uncover the fact that horrendous act occurred and there was never a price paid. And Bryce made the connection. He more or less said at the end, he said that it was such an outrageous act to get away with 100% that he felt that maybe Israel felt like if we can get away with this, we can get away with anything. And that comes us right to the back thing about the genocide. Right now, they're getting away with starving children. So I think we're at a high level of evil with very little accountability. When you're getting standing ovations from a war criminal, and now we're got a recognized genocide, this is not acceptable if you want to call yourself a civilized planet.
The leaders of every civilized country in this world, and I'm excluding this country, of course, in its present state, have called it genocide. But, they have no power because the U.S. has the big military. The U.S. has the economic clout to punish its critics, which it's been doing with tariffs. You know something about Brazil, don't you, John?
Yeah, they've had a really interesting experience with having their internal governance interfered with. They had a situation a few years ago when they had an election and somebody lost and they started a mutiny to take the job back. There was even a plot to kill the winner. I don't have to get into the names or the history, but it's the example of we intervened and tried to actually put tariffs on a judge in Brazil for voting to convict a person for mutiny and for treason, basically. Yeah. He got 27 years. We'll see how many he serves.
Right.
But he's in the slammer for 27 years, and this only happened within 2 years. It's only been 2 years. January 6, 2011 was a long time ago. And here we are. We're not even fixed with that problem. But they did it in 2 years. But President Trump was very critical. He also increased their tariff to 50%.
Yes, to punish Brazil for having punished its own attempted coup.
That's right. That was a good point to raise. It is strange how that card comes up around the world right now. And that's part of what we're trying to explore here is how do you talk out of the mess? I mean, if you're not going to shoot your way out, you got to talk your way out of it. You got to figure out how to work it out. Make the real deal a real deal, not one that's good for 6 months or the next 2 years of my term in office.
Well, we're happy as an organization to be able to make a point that's not very well accepted, and that is the whole concept of permanent war. War. And so I went to the Washington Vietnam Memorial War, and I got the feeling, I looked up some names of people I knew before I went myself. That's what people do. And when you look at the Veterans for Peace, and we say we're against flyovers, and people look at you like, what are you, from another planet? This is the accepted way for militarism to creep into and to influence young people, a little kid looking at, I want to do that someday, type of thing. And so we like to nip it in the bud. And I don't.
And they held a flyover at this event in Wethersfield.
Yeah, exactly. So I know, and Greg also, both of us wrote a letter to the wall because it was a Veteran for Peace movement, and I think it was 2018. Am I right? So 6 years ago, maybe.
More like 15, maybe.
No, I don't think it was that long ago.
Well,
so
whatever.
We were each asked to write a letter, and then they put it in a boot, and all of them stayed there so people could read it while they were doing the thing. But I know my letter was a little. It's the type of thing that would turn off some people. So when I sent it to the woman in charge of the whole thing, and I said, it would be possible for me to read that. And in it, I told a story of growing up conventionally, going to St. Mary's, Windham High, Yukon, the whole thing.
Homegrown, I know.
And
Homegrown.
having a lot of respect for the country because of our education system that we had, the fact that we were respected all over the globe for human rights. These things have gone away a little bit now. Now we're pro-torture. We just call it enhanced interrogation now. So a lot of the things have gone downhill in my estimation. So when I wrote my letter to the wall, I made it very clear that we were not heroes. We were not heroes. We were not defending the country. I remember Muhammad Ali. I had this lousy feeling about what he was saying when he said, those little guys didn't do anything to me. And I'm thinking to myself, you're a draft dodger. Now I respect what he said. So I've grown up to see that you need people like that to go against the grain. That's what you need. And the Veterans for Peace is a small percentage of veterans that see it that way.
We have a couple minutes left, and I wanted to make sure that before we close, we mention Connecticut veterans' health issues. I'm going to try when you come in October to get an update on how the health care has been impacted. There have been so many federal cuts that are now roiling down through the system with local impacts. You had recently had some very good health care experience, but have you guys gotten any information as veterans about any changes that are coming to health care because of the recent federal changes, which have been substantial?
I'm accumulating information as I'm able to. But as I've said here before, with this administration, everything is vague. They've said they're going to kill 70 to 80,000 jobs at the VA, but as far as I know, no massive layoffs have started yet.
Yeah, there hasn't been a collapse that I've heard of yet. Okay, we're still.
That's good to know.
And I think that the goal is to make it less effective so that there's less resistance when they want to make the move and eliminate the jobs and privatize it, essentially.
Yeah, privatization is the goal.
Yes.
In fact, Trump recently shuffled $1.8 billion, I guess, from the VA's own healthcare budget into the private sector. And he did that, of course, without consulting Congress. He did it through an executive order. And getting back to the Wethersfield event, before we're out of time, we just want to praise our chapter commander,
very much so,
Jim Brazil,
what a job,
for getting the issue of the USS Liberty onto the official program. He spoke himself, and he didn't use any inflammatory rhetoric. He just
That's good.
Gently hinted that maybe in the future this country should think about things like launching wars, because there are over 58,000 names on the Vietnam section of the wall alone. And when I wrote my letter to the wall in D.C., whatever year that was, I said, the name of every person on this wall represents a victim of U.S. militarism. I don't care what killed them, whether it was a bullet from a Vietnamese liberation fighter, or an accident, friendly fire, their Jeep rolled over and crushed them, whatever. Not a single U.S. troop was ever justified in invading Vietnam. I cannot overemphasize that. And that goes for every war this country has launched, which they have not declared, undeclared military actions, starting with Korea. Korea was a blueprint for what they did to Vietnam. Artificially divided the country in half, denied them the right to determine their own future, political, economic, whatever. And that's why we still have this standoff on the Korean Peninsula.
We do.
28,000 U.S. troops in the southern part. And that's why I always put the South or the North in quotation marks when I refer to Korea, because they're both fake nations, let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. Just what they did to Vietnam.
Yeah, same thing.
The Vietnamese people never considered there to be a nation called South Vietnam or a nation called North Vietnam. They wanted to be unified and independent of foreign interference, and they fought for that. They made incredible sacrifices, and they defeated the greatest military power on the planet, the U.S. of A. And now Trump says, oh, well, since World War II, our military was never allowed to really fight. Yeah, where have we heard that before?
Yeah, I've
From
heard that.
Sylvester Stallone, in the 1980s, and Reagan in the 1980s. These lies are so monumental. But, part of the tactic of propaganda that Joseph Goebbels laid out for Nazi Germany is the more you repeat a lie, the more people will come to accept it.
Well, that's also how Madison Avenue makes its money. That's how they sell things.
Shh. The station has sponsors. Shh.
No. It's the same process. It's just convincing people to do things for good purposes or ill. What I want to do before we close is for October, we're going to try to get Jim to join us. He often will join us by phone. We'll see if we can get an update of some of the fall activities. And we'll do an update on what's happening, because we were talking about some history repeating itself many times painfully. Right now, we're at the edge of how World War II started, reliving some of that insanity all over again with a different cover on it. And that's a very, very important issue we have to look at. But I want to thank you for your activity throughout the year, for being here to share your thoughts, and for keeping the Veterans for Peace alive in Connecticut for Chapter 42.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So thanks to Greg Laxer and Bill Potvin for being here today. We're going to take a break for a couple of messages and come right back and focus on Alfred Hitchcock's story, Dial M for Murder, and the Windham Theater Guild. All righty, we're back live on the Homefront. Very happy to have you with us once again. Just want to mention, if you'd like to get involved with the show and share information, or if you're with an organization, you're doing special programs, the doors are always open to you, as are the airways. We also do public access TV, and we're on 3 radio stations as well. But please do just use email to make your arrangements. It's john@humanartsmedia.com. We're open for all kinds of viewpoints. As you can tell, we have community groups, economic groups, agricultural. There's so many things that are good that are happening in our community. Many of our shows here on the station are trying to focus on positive activities that are making things better with the things that we have now. So for the second half, I'm very happy to preview the opening of Dial M for Murder, the next presentation from the Windham Theater Guild, a wonderful arts treasure right down the street from us at the Burton Levitt Theater. The show's opening on the 19th, running through the 28th. I have an interview that I edited together with the director and 2 cast members. It's going to be a great show. Enjoy just a few minutes about Dial M for Murder, the great Alfred Hitchcock story. And sitting next to me is the director, Nick Hargrave. And we also have 2 cast members with us today, Kathleen Narowski and also Justin Starr. Good to have you all here in the house. Welcome aboard.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So taking on Alfred Hitchcock is always epic because, part of the fun of his films is how they're shot and the angles he presents. And I wonder now, how you translated that into the stage, because there's an interesting use of the staircase and all these things. And how did you translate that to the stage?
Well, I've been trying very hard not to be limited by the Alfred Hitchcock version of this story. This is an updated version of the story. This is one that was written and first produced in 2022 with an updated plot line, and everything is a little bit different. And I'm trying to make sure that we are our own version. I'm still trying to keep the tension of the Alfred Hitchcock and the style of pacing that he brings to everything that he does. And a lot of that actually comes in the dialogue, while making sure that the actors are keeping one another suspended with their dialogue. It helps bring forth the suspense that the story was given with the shots of the movie.
Yeah. So let me bring in the two cast members too, because we're talking here, with Tony and Margot. So we have a real gaslighting situation. There's a real mental vortex going on, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So how did you recreate that in the new frame that you're trying to do for 2025? But it's the same psychospace.
Would you like to?
No, either or.
Yeah.
Well, I think that it does. Gaslighting plays a huge part in this. As Margot, I feel like there's also the dynamic that you have to incorporate of a 1950s woman, in which the generalized societal expectations is she is subservient to her husband, and his word is the word. So it would have been easier back then to pull the wool over your wife's eyes and make her believe things that weren't true, only because she had been brought up with those expectations where she would just listen to the husband. I would like to think that nowadays it might not be so easy, but that might be giving too much credit to general society, but I don't know. But you want to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really process it too much like that. I just took it as this is a what I would call a 50s marriage. It's very what we call now traditional. And the men are typically in charge in that situation. And playing a man who enjoys being in control and has to be in control is very interesting, given the dynamic of, a particular other character in this show who really steps in the middle of what I would say is his pride. He was once a writer, and he wanted to be he aspired to be a writer. And the person that steps in the middle of this is somebody who has everything that he wanted. And not only that, has his wife as well. So I find it interesting that, playing with these, it's really a lot of power dynamics and control. And he is very good at playing on his feet, and controlling the environment around him. And the most interesting part to me about the dynamics is like the way that when he is in control, he affects other people in ways that only we as the audience would be able to be like, oh my gosh, I could see myself in that situation. Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely fascinating to be able to feel it. Like there's sometimes during rehearsals where we're like, oh my God, this is so bad. Because it is.
That's true, because sometimes, Hitchcock lets you in on it so that the characters are going through this, but you have an idea what's about to happen, and he's setting you up sometimes for a big surprise. So, Nick, I understand after working on the theatrical side, this is your first time as a full-blown director, so congratulations on taking the leap.
Thank you.
And since you have a different kind of role, how did you feel about the stage space and how you were going to block it out and create some kind of venue for these people to show their stuff?
I like exploring the space on the stage in interesting ways. I like back at the Renaissance Fair where I did a little bit of direct-ish work before. Mm-hmm. A lot of the stuff that we did was having 2 or 3 people on a stage and constantly balancing each other. So finding that balance of who is at what place on the stage and who is opposite them, levels of who's standing, who's sitting, was the most important thing most of the time. And moving that to a narrative setting where we get to use those same ideas, but all with the general goal of telling a story and manipulating the audience's emotions, it is interesting. One thing that I've tried to do is using the actual positioning of the people on the stage to generally get across not just where we are in the story, but like to play with the audience's subliminal interpretation of how concluded the story is and at what level of tension we are at based on whether somebody's on the right side of the stage or the left.
Right, and maybe the related lighting that goes into that to highlight certain areas, right? Yeah. And how about any incidental music? This isn't a very heavily music kind of a scene, but what do you do for sound or the use of sound in it? You're smiling already now.
We have
All
one.
right.
So our Act 1 finale is actually a very intricate and something that we've been rehearsing a lot. It is a radio broadcast.
Ooh, I like this.
The entire scene is about 12 minutes long, and it is entirely staged to the sound of a pre-recorded radio broadcast that is playing over the events that are happening on stage. And it is timed out so that at dramatic pauses you can hear certain phrases from the radio filtering in as they have an ironic twist to what is happening on stage.
Wow. That's fascinating use of interactive sound that way. You're smiling because that takes practice to get the timing right. Right? You're laughing, right? I bet.
It's looking pretty good, and it took a while to get it there.
Now, is the radio broadcast of the time? In other words, would it be a typical kind of thing you'd hear on the radio back then?
It is actually one of the characters in the play doing a radio interview about her book. That she's writing in the play. So it is something that our actors have pre-recorded and then are playing while the other actors perform underneath it.
Wow. Well, I just want to mention, in case you've tuned in on the radio here, we're talking to folks from the Windham Theater Guild. They're doing Dial M for Murder in September, starting on the 19th and going through the 28th at different times, of course. Just go to the website for all the details for your tickets. It's windhamtheaterguild.org. And sitting next to me is the director, Nick Hargrave. Also, we have Kathleen Narowski and also Justin Starr from the cast. A question for you, Kathleen. You've been here with the Guild 21 years. A lot of hard work, a lot of love. But one thing I like about community theater is there's room for people to stay and grow and foster a real community connection and new people coming in. And we have a mix here of new and veterans.
Yes.
So what's it like and how does it keep so many of the cast members staying there for so long through all kinds of different plays every year?
Yeah, well, I definitely consider Windham Theater Guild my theater home. My first show there was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Wow.
And it's really kind of incredible to watch the flow of people. And the best part about it is you never really say goodbye to anybody, but you're saying hello a lot for the first time. So like with the Guild, all these productions, the new blood coming in has been really refreshing, especially recently. As you mentioned, coming up, we do have the Rocky Horror Show, the stage version. And this year are so many new participants, and the enthusiasm has been so high from all these new people. Too. And I'm just really excited about young people finding their way to theater. I think a lot of the time we don't necessarily cater towards youth. We like to cater towards the people with the wallets, and that tends to be adults, right? And that's where ticket sales are. But I think it's so important to offer younger people this outlet, this family, this connection to express themselves in a space that's safe. And so I think that the Windham Theater Guild is really, really good at fostering that kind of environment.
That's sweet. I should mention that there's only a couple of shows for the Rocky Horror Show. It's Friday, October 17th at 8 o'clock and Saturday the 18th at 7 p.m. and a late show for you night crawlers at 11 o'clock. So those are the 3 opportunities for this year. Well, I want to thank you for all the work you do throughout the year to keep our local theater alive and well. I want to mention again, just down the street, here's the Burton Levitt Theater. They're going to have Dial M for Murder opening on September 19th through the 28th at different times, so check the website. The Rocky Horror Show is coming up October 17th and 18th. So thanks again for being here. I wish you good luck with the show. I look forward to seeing you all there because I love the story. I look forward to seeing you, and I wish you well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All righty. Okay, we're back live now. That was the Windham Theater Guild. Just go to the website to follow up on this, windhamtheaterguild.org. You get all the information about tickets. I'm going to go check out the show. It should be a good time. A couple more things. I want to congratulate everybody in town that worked on Artists for Asheville last week. It was a celebration to raise funds for a wonderful arts community that was devastated by a storm. There were many people involved with that event, and it was all, folks in town, the town of Windham, Ashford Area Arts Council, Artists Open Studios, RAC, the Windham Regional Arts Council, and then there were organizers Nancy Bunnell and Bruce John. All the money went to Asheville, and we thank everybody who helped to make that a really nice day here in Willimantic. Also, a couple of quick things before we go. Poetry in the Park goes on for one more time, Thursday, September 25th at 6 o'clock. It's a little earlier now because it's more towards the fall, so it's 6 o'clock, and the featured author is, her name is Penelope Pellizzone. So that's going to be at the Julia de Burgos Park, corner of Curbstone Way and Jackson Street, just a few blocks away from us, right here in beautiful downtown Willimantic. Poetry in the Park. One last thing, too, from the Access Agency. They have a special workshop with Eversource. It's called Let's Talk Energy. It's about all aspects of energy and personal finance and cost and management. It's happening Tuesday from 5 to 6 at the Access Housing Education and Counseling Center. That's in Danielson at 140 Main Street. That'll be a good opportunity to figure out how to deal with the cost of energy today. So thanks for sharing your time with us. We'll see you next week. Take care.